Happening now, Israelis releasing hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Will that help the peace process? Stand by for hard news on Wolf Blitzer Reports. The battle for Iraq. Day 5 of a massive counterinsurgency, while fresh violence claims more than a dozen lives. Critic killed. A leading anti-Syrian journalist assassinated in Beirut. Opposition members point their fingers.
The Syrians have always tried to kill any free voice in Lebanon.
The source. Bob Woodward's riveting account of how he got to know Deep Throat. Intriguing new details of a fateful relationship that changed American history.
This is Wolf Blitzer Reports for Thursday, June 2nd, 2005.
Thanks for joining us. Operation Lightning was launched this week to cripple the Iraqi insurgency and curtail the hit-and-run attacks that have terrorized Iraqi citizens. So far, there's not much evidence it's working. Today, a series of bombings killed at least 19 people. CNN's Jennifer Eccleston reports from Baghdad.
An explosive rigged motorcycle detonated in a busy street in the northern city of Mosul. Iraqi officials tell CNN one policeman is dead and 16 people have been wounded. The attack is yet another example of violence that continues to shadow large parts of Iraq. And it began this morning as diners were eating breakfast outside the northern city of Kirkuk, where a suicide car bomb ripped through a restaurant, killing 12 people and injuring 38 others. Now among the dead is a bodyguard to Iraq's deputy prime minister. A Kurd, 6 other of his bodyguards were also wounded. Almost 30 minutes later, another suicide bomber targeted an American diplomatic convoy, this time in the city center of Kirkuk. 2 Iraqi children died as a result of that blast, and 11 people were wounded. And then the violence spread southward to the city of Bakuba. Some 10 to 15 minutes after Kirkuk attack, a local government official and 3 of his bodyguards were killed after a suicide bomber attacked his convoy. And the U.S. Central Command here in Baghdad also announced today that 3 U.S. soldiers died yesterday, too, from combat-related deaths outside of Baghdad in western Iraq, outside the city of Ramadi. Now, in an effort to stem the wave of violence, the Iraqi-led Operation Lightning, involving tens of thousands of Iraqi forces and some 7,000 U.S. troops, continues here in Baghdad. It's in its 5th day. The Iraqi officials are claiming success in capturing hundreds of insurgents and a number of weapons cache, but still the violence continues throughout a large part of this country. Jennifer Eccleston, CNN, Baghdad.
More political turmoil in Beirut. Lebanon's opposition is calling for the resignation of its pro-Syrian president after a prominent journalist was assassinated today in Beirut. The victim's wife, a journalist for the El Arabiya television network, is also calling for an international investigation. Here's CNN's Beirut bureau chief, Brent Sadler.
The bomb was rigged to kill one man, detonating in a Christian district of Beirut. Aimed to permanently silence, claim Lebanese opposition leaders, a high-profile critic of Syria, whose work was regularly published by this newly elected opposition MP and newspaper owner.
The Syrians have always tried to kill any free voice in Lebanon, any free journalist, any free politicians in Lebanon, and what's happening today is the continuation of this regime.
Opponents of Syria have, as usual, no hard proof to link Syria with this latest assassination. But the murdered journalist, Samir Kassir, previously reported he was closely monitored by intelligence services. And his latest front-page column Friday lambasted Syria's Ba'ath Party rulers, accusing them of rejecting opposition views.
We should close our ranks and carry on till we extract completely the murderers and criminals who have turned this country into the bloodbath that we are seeing.
Whoever ordered and carried out this killing paid scant regard to international attention directed on Lebanon through a team of investigators trying to solve February's assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. 5 previous blasts have targeted Christian areas in and near the Lebanese capital since March, in the wake of the Hariri murder. seen by the opposition here as an attempt to derail pro-democracy protests designed to break Syria's hold on Lebanon to allow free and fair elections that have only just started.
It's a clear message that every time we will have certain steps forward, somebody would like to make us backward.
It's amid fears of more violence in 3 weeks of electioneering that tension and tempers are rising here. Opposition leaders who met in emergency session fear they too could be on a list of targets, including the late Prime Minister's son.
God knows what's coming. We will not be afraid. We will not relent. We will not stop. We want our freedom. We want our independence. We want our sovereignty. And no one is going to stop us.
Military investigators work this latest crime scene, but few Lebanese seriously expect any concrete results from this or any other inquiry to identify the assassins. Brent Sadler, CNN, Beirut.
Here in the United States, President Bush says he'll nominate Congressman Christopher Cox to succeed William Donaldson as head of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Donaldson announced plans to step down just yesterday. Our economic correspondent Kathleen Hayes is joining us live with more from New York. Kathleen?
Well, simply put, you know, there is a pretty definite link between the Securities and Exchange Commission and your 401k. If the SEC boosts investor confidence, bolsters that can help the stock market get on a more solid footing, and that can definitely be good for your investments.
Chris Cox knows that a free economy is built on trust.
Trust. That's what investors must have in the Securities and Exchange Commission, the top regulator of the securities markets, and in President Bush's nominee to head the agency, Congressman Christopher Cox. Cox, a Harvard-educated lawyer and businessman, has helped push Bush's economic agenda, including cutting taxes on inheritances and the taxes on stock dividends. Today, he said free and efficient markets create more wealth for Americans.
Because the natural enemies of this economic marvel are fraud and unfair dealing.
If confirmed, Cox will replace William Donaldson, a Wall Street heavyweight who was brought in to restore investor confidence after scandals at companies like Enron and WorldCom tore it to shreds. Donaldson resigned abruptly from the post yesterday, citing a desire to return to the private sector where he made his millions. The Bush administration moved quickly in naming Cox, even as some question if Cox will favor big business over the interests of small investors, which they say could decimate confidence, hurt the stock market, and undermine the economy. They base this on Cox's leading role in passing a bill in 1995 that limited some investors' ability to sue big companies for securities fraud.
He's going to have to reach out to a lot of people in the financial community, reassure Wall Street that he's a mature individual with sufficient gravitas, reassure investors that he takes preventing fraud seriously.
Former SEC Chief Harvey Pitt said it's true Cox is a savvy politician, one savvy enough to know he must walk a fine line.
What you'll see is somebody who is sensitive to the issues that affect businesses, is very sensitive to the need for investor protection, and will try to come up with an approach that is pragmatic and works to facilitate all of the Commission's objectives.
Harvey Pitt is one of those who feels that the Sarbanes-Oxley legislation that was passed in the wake of corporate scandals to tighten up corporate governance needs a bit of fine-tuning. This will be a big test for Cox Wolf. Does he take steps that companies say are unnecessary, increase their paperwork and costs, or does he side with the investor advocates who say Sarbanes-Oxley was a necessary step in the right direction that should be maintained in full? Wolf?
All right, we'll watch this nomination. Thanks very much, Kathleen Hayes in New York. Uncovering one of the greatest political scandals in American history. Bob Woodward, one of the reporters who broke the Watergate story, speaks out about his relationship with Mark Felt, the man now identified as Deep Throat. Champions who helped free a continent. What links a heroic World War II battle to former President Ronald Reagan? I'll speak with presidential historian and author Douglas Brinkley. And California landslide. Several luxury homes destroyed and up to 1,000 people evacuated. We'll go there live.
Turn off the Ambilight function on your Philips flat TV, and it's like going back in time. The only flat TV with Ambilight from Philips. You'll never go back to ordinary TV.
Hey. Hey, Tim. So, how was Father's Day? Pam get you anything?
Yeah, actually, she got me this camera phone. It was 2 for 1, so she got one too. What'd you get?
Don't be a jerk. What are you looking at?
This year, it's good to be dad. Buy one Samsung A670 camera phone from Verizon Wireless for $49.99 and get a second one free. Then start calling on the nation's most reliable wireless network.
Johnson said you wanted to see me?
Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Imagine bringing a catalog to life by customizing it for each team, printing it in each language, and personalizing it for each customer. Imagine using Xerox digital technology to do all this and having your responses increased by 40%. It's a nice image, isn't it?
What are you doing?
Shopping and comparing before I buy.
Now at Priceline, shop and compare before you buy. Choose your exact hotel at great low prices. Priceline. Shop, compare, save.
Be frugal.
Be decisive.
Be opportunistic. Be powerful. In other words, be extraordinary. Power E-Trade Pro, radically upgraded and now with low pricing for stock and options trades. At E-Trade Financial, we keep challenging the ordinary to help investors be extraordinary.
You take care of your body, so can your toothbrush. There is more and more evidence that oral health impacts overall health. So it makes sense to use the Sonic brush, used and recommended by more dental professionals. Sonicare, because your mouth is the gateway to your body.
CNN Tonight, 2 live primetime firsts at 9. Woodward and Bernstein on Deep Throat Revealed. Then Larry's back at 10 with Dan Rather on Leaving the Anchor Chair. Larry marks 20 years, CNN 25. CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern. Sponsored by Johnson & Johnson.
400 Palestinian prisoners are back home after a mass release by Israel designed to try to strengthen the Palestinian president Mahmoud Abbas. CNN's Guy Raz was in the West Bank town of Tulkarm as residents welcomed home their loved ones.
Maryam Abuzgeb wears an amulet with photos of her 3 sons still in prison. In a short time, one of her boys, 22-year-old Jasser, will be home. Maryam hasn't seen Jasser in nearly 4 years. She can barely hold back her tears. Today, my son is finally coming home, she says. The crowd just outside the checkpoint into Tulkarm grows excited. The men suck on cigarettes to quell their tension, and finally, the buses arrive. Maryam rushes to find her son. Abuzgeb, she shouts, calling out his last name. Jasser leans out the window. His relatives clamor. For the first time in 4 years, Maryam can hug her son. Back at home, inside the Tulkarm refugee camp, the neighbors gather to greet Jasser. He served 2/3 of his prison sentence, convicted of belonging to the militant Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. His comrades fire rifle rounds in celebration. So does Jasser. I'm happy, Jasser says, but with mixed feelings. My 2 brothers are still in jail. All of the boys in Jasser's family have served or are serving jail time. It's almost like your duty, Jasser says sarcastically. If you're a Palestinian, at some point you'll wind up in jail. His mother Maryam says she'll cook a king's feast when all her boys are home. About 8,000 Palestinians remain incarcerated in Israeli prisons, accused of everything from plotting suicide attacks to petty theft. Palestinians like Jasser's sister-in-law, Asil, want many more released, including her husband. My husband has never seen his son, and my son has never seen his father, she says. But despite the tears of joy in some parts, a sea of guns was on show in Gaza. Militants opposed to Palestinian security reforms protested, Palestinian reformers say their grip on power is tenuous, and they add if Israel is serious about helping the moderates, it will have to release many more prisoners. Israel calls it a goodwill gesture designed to bolster moderate Palestinian leaders, but Palestinian officials see it as a publicity stunt. Nevertheless, 400 men are now free. Guy Raz, CNN, outside Tulkarm in the West Bank.
Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward finally speaks out about his relationship with Mark Felt. Also coming up, closing arguments happening right now in the Michael Jackson child molestation trial. Our senior legal analyst, Jeff Toobin, inside the courtroom. He's about to step outside. He'll join us live with the latest. And later,
he was utterly fearless. And as a result, many of the junior officers and non-commissioned officers did everything they could to emulate him.
A war hero and a role model for his troops. We mark the passing of one of America's most decorated soldiers, Colonel David Hackworth. Stay with us.
Wolf Blitzer Reports is brought to you by Smith Barney. This is who we are. This is how we earn it.
Proud parents Jake and Paula just sent their fourth son off to an Ivy League college.
You think it's easy putting 4 kids through college? We've been working at this since we got married. Now 2 of them are going to business school. Trust me, it's been no walk in the park. If we didn't have someone good helping us plan this whole thing, we never would have been ready.
Smith Barney, this is who we are. This is how we earn it. Hey, looks like you got that Ranger fully loaded.
Almost.
Man, you've got that F-150 all tricked out.
Not quite.
You got everything on that tough Ford Super Duty.
Just about. Now I do.
Get any Built Ford Tough truck and choose a premium gift package from the Home Depot at no extra charge. America's #1 selling truck line just got better. Bring it home. Ford. Built Ford Tough.
Hey. Hey, Tim. So, how was Father's Day? Pam get you anything?
Yeah, actually, she got me this camera phone. It was 2 for 1, so she got one too. What'd you get?
Don't be a jerk. What are you looking at?
This year, it's good to be dad. Buy one Samsung A670 camera phone from Verizon Wireless for $49.99 and get a second one free. Then start calling on the nation's most reliable wireless network.
Johnson said you wanted to see me?
Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
2 live primetime firsts at 9. Woodward and Bernstein on Deep Throat Revealed. Then Larry's back at 10 with Dan Rather on Leaving the Anchor Chair. CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern.
Life's full of surprises. That's why no one is more focused on getting your car back to normal than your farmer's agent.
It's wonderful.
Farmers Auto Insurance. Get you back where you belong.
To find a farmer's agent near you, call 1-800-FARMERS.
All new shows, all new performers. See who has what it takes to be America's most talented kids. Sunday and Friday nights on Vax. They call him Doc Sloan.
What's the diagnosis?
He's not your ordinary doctor.
In between saving lives, he solves murders. Murder weapon always leads to the murderer.
That's just like James Bond.
Diagnosis murder.
Don't you just love a mystery?
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday nights. Only on Vax.
Bringing you the world for 25 years. This is CNN.
The Washington Post found itself scooped this week on one of its own stories when former FBI official Mark Felt came out to Vanity Fair magazine as the legendary Watergate source Deep Throat. But the paper has caught up with a riveting account by reporter Bob Woodward, who was seen leaving the White House earlier this afternoon. We don't know what he was doing there. We'll find out on Larry King Live, though, tonight. Woodward, in today's Washington Post, writes of his association with Felt, how it began and became what certainly must be regarded as one of the most consequential relationships in the history of American journalism. A frail and elderly man, once a top FBI official, and a veteran award-winning journalist. Their relationship 3 decades ago as source and reporter ultimately contributed to the downfall of a presidency. But as Bob Woodward writes in today's Washington Post, that relationship didn't blossom overnight. Woodward recounts first meeting Mark Felt in 1970 in a waiting room outside the White House Situation Room. Woodward, then a Navy courier, and Felt a rising official in the FBI. Woodward describes Felt in that first meeting as distant and formal, yet friendly and even paternal. The future reporter was looking for career guidance and asked for Felt's phone number. Over the course of the next year, Woodward says Felt became his mentor, and Woodward, now a Cub reporter, began to learn about Felt, that he was an admirer of then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and deeply suspicious of the Nixon White House. By 1972, Woodward had made it to the Washington Post, and Felt, now number 2 at the FBI, had already become a source, tipping Woodward on important stories. But the fateful climax of their relationship began in June, with the Watergate break-in. It was Felt who guided Woodward and fellow reporter Carl Bernstein along the path that led to the White House.
I called Felt and said, is there something here? And he said, there's no doubt Howard Hunt is involved. So with that kind of checking and backstop, you can go with the story, as Bradley did, above the fold, saying this is the first White House connection.
Woodward says as he and Bernstein continued to dig, and as the scope of the scandal became evident, Felt grew nervous and set up an elaborate system to keep their contacts covert. As depicted in the movie All the President's Men, they would meet only in the middle of the night in a parking garage. Woodward could call a meeting only if it was urgent by moving a flower pot on his balcony. Felt would summon Woodward by having his copy of the New York Times intercepted and page 20 circled. Bernstein describes the meetings as furtive and brief.
We had very little time. Bob and Felt in the garage had very little time together. There are fewer than 10 meetings and conversations in the course of a couple of years, and the object was to get as much information, as much context, as much certainty to things we had obtained elsewhere.
Woodward says he was apologetic for pushing a source, but he says Felt encouraged him to persevere, which both reporters did all the way to the historic day in 1974 when President Richard Nixon resigned. To this day, Woodward and Bernstein remain somewhat puzzled by Felt.
We had no idea of his motivations, and even now some of his motivations are unclear.
Yet they defend his role in uncovering one of the greatest scandals ever to rock the White House.
This is the old crowd kind of relaunching the wars of Watergate and saying, let's make the conduct of the sources that we use,
or the press,
the issue rather than their own. And the record about Watergate crimes is staggering, voluminous, and irrefutable.
The presidential historian Douglas Brinkley is joining us now. He's here to talk about Deep Throat, the presidential historical ramifications of that. Also his new book, The Boys of Pointe-du-Hoc, about the U.S. Army Rangers who stormed the Normandy coast on D-Day and how President Reagan made their story the centerpiece of 2 of his greatest speeches. We'll get to that shortly, Douglas. But first of all, the historic revelation that we had in the last few days. Give us your sense of some perspective, the revelation of Deep Throat is, what it means to historians.
Well, I think for Woodward and Bernstein, they must be really relieved. Just think how many people have been asking them who is Deep Throat over the decades. At least the riddle, the mystery is solved. I think it's very important. It's more than a historic footnote. Any index of American history, any textbook has a chapter on Watergate. It was a very dramatic moment when the President of the United States resigns and her government seemed to be collapsing at many places. And there's always been this Deep Throat figure that nobody's known who he is. If you look it up in an index of any history textbook, you'll see Deep Throat without a name. Well, now we know the name is Mark Felt, and he's become, I think, an important figure in American history to understand. And as you rightfully said, Wolf, we still don't know his motivation. What we do know is what his action was, and he cooperated with Woodward, and the end result was he was a major player in the destruction of Richard Nixon's presidency.
Do we care that he was a high-ranking FBI official, the number 2 official, as opposed to, shall we say, a political operative working in the White House? Does that make a difference that he was a career FBI professional?
I think it does. You know, most though Watergate aficionados have never really believed it was somebody in the White House where they have discussions and they're taped, there was always a feeling that Deep Throat came from CIA or from the FBI. David Gergen, for example, the other day has mentioned that very point. He was in the Nixon White House. I think that the fact that bothers some people is there's a feeling that is he a fink? Is Felt a fink? Is this a guy who rises to number 2 and now he starts telling all the secrets of the FBI? Is that good for our government? And that's a question that's debated. It's why television shows are going to go back and forth. Is Deep Throat a hero or a villain? I think he's something in between. He's not a hero with the capital H, but certainly the crimes of the Nixon administration, I think, justified a concern on Felt as a patriot, as a citizen. And it's interesting he picked Woodward to be the person that he was going to walk down this kind of torturous path of watching of Richard Nixon leave the White House. The backstory, Wolf, of all this is Washington bureaucratic fighting. Nixon was having a very tough time with the FBI. We also have the fact, the human side of this, that Felt was passed over when Hoover resigned. Gray superseded him. There was some personal animosity towards Richard Nixon. All of these things are part of the stew of Watergate. But what we do know this week is that the biggest mystery of it all has been solved.
Well, let's move forward now to the presidency of Ronald Reagan. You have a book, The Boys of Pointe du Hoc. A year ago, you and I were on Normandy Beach, commemorating the 60th anniversary of D-Day. This plays another historically important role in the presidency of Ronald Reagan. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I remember you over there, Wolf, because you were eating an ice cream cone when the news of Reagan's death occurred. In your professionalism, you were in kind of relaxed clothes, and suddenly, boom, you were on the air with no teleprompter talking about the 8 years of Ronald Reagan and his presidency and his death. And as you know, he died on June 5th last year, Reagan, and the famous time of Pointe du Hoc, D-Day, was June 6th. Reagan was the first American president to go back to Normandy. Ike went in '64 to talk to Walter Cronkite, but he was out of office at that point. Reagan went in June 6th, 1984, and gave two incredible speeches, The Boys of Pointe du Hoc and Omaha Beach. And what he did was use World War II triumphalism in many ways to forget Korea and Vietnam and talk, because there was no moral, it was so morally clear, World War II. We were the white hats, the good guys. Hitler and the fascists were the bad guys. And Reagan built a kind of new patriotism in '84 around these two speeches. The genius of Reagan's stagecrafting at Normandy was Michael Deaver, who picked that dramatic spot there at Pointe du Hoc in between Omaha and Utah beaches with that sea of white crosses and stars of David that are there, which, as you know, it's a chilling, haunting spot, and all Americans should go there. And you really will understand what these U.S. Army Rangers and others did on D-Day to help begin the liberation of Europe.
And if you can go there and see some of those veterans from D-Day, they're all getting pretty old right now. That makes it even more memorable. It's an important read, a good read, The Boys of Pointe du Hoc. Douglas Brinkley, the presidential historian, joining us today. Thanks. Congratulations on the new book, Doug.
Hey, thanks, Wolf.
This important programming note to our viewers, a CNN Primetime exclusive, a special 2-hour edition of Larry King Live tonight. The two men who kept Deep Throat's identity a secret for 3 decades. Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, they'll sit down with Larry in their first live primetime interview. Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then at 10 p.m. Eastern, former CBS News anchor Dan Rather joins Larry King as well. Larry King on from 9 to 11 tonight, 2 hours of Larry King Live. Also on CNN Primetime tonight, the actor Robert Redford. He played Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward in All the President's Men. Tonight he sits down with our Paula Zahn to talk about this historic revelation and what it means to him.
Do you think All the President's Men contributed to the mythology of Deep Throat?
Well, I think it contributed a lot because of the substance and the huge power that lay underneath it, of it being an historical event. I mean, it was such a major historical event in its time. I don't know that it would be possible today, but I think in its time it was so huge, and the fact that it had buried in the center of it this mystery, particularly labeling it Deep Throat, which had its own cottage industry at that time, yeah, I think that contributed a lot to it. I remember when I first got involved and was spending time with Bob and Carl, I asked Bob, just as a matter of course, I said, who's Deep Throat? And he said, I can't really reveal that. I accepted that because part of me thought, well, if this is going to be a film, that's a wonderful aspect of the film, to have that the theatrical part be a mystery. So I never pushed it. I just kind of honored Bob's wishes, and the other part really didn't want to know. So I was just kind of left to speculation.
You can hear more from Robert Redford tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Paula Zahn Now. Laguna landslides. 1,000 people have been forced from their homes, many waiting for word on when they can go home, if they can go home. We'll have a live report from the scene. That's coming up. Plus, elderly arsenal, a stunning find. One couple had almost 500 guns in their home. And in our look around the world, the rescue effort to save dozens of beached whales. Stay with us.
Why isn't there a DVD recorder so easy to use that I don't hear Dad say words I'm not supposed to hear? Why isn't there a defibrillator so easy to use that almost anyone can use it? Why can't technology be as simple as the box it comes in?
We think technology should simplify life, not complicate it.
Invention is greater than convention. Moving forward is greater than sitting still. Simple is greater than complex. Greater power, greater technology, greater beauty. The all-new Audi A6. It's greater to lead than follow.
Imagine bringing a catalog to life by customizing it for each team, printing it in each language, and personalizing it for each customer. Imagine using Xerox digital technology to do all this and having your responses increased by 40%. It's a nice image, isn't it?
Get a wireless laptop with technology designed for mobile performance. Make sure it has Intel Centrino mobile technology built in.
CNN Tonight, 2 live primetime firsts at 9. Woodward and Bernstein on Deep Throat Revealed. Then Larry's back at 10 with Dan Rather on Leaving the Anchor Chair. Larry marks 20 years, CNN 25. CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern. Sponsored by Dodge.
A premature baby is so small that a mother's wedding ring fits around its wrist. So it made sense to design a monitor specifically around the needs of those critical first days.
Tear down this wall. Go and throttle up. Smoke billowing out of the tree.
Defining moments. A CNN primetime event. Sunday night 8 Eastern. Sponsored by your Dodge dealers.
Anxious and apprehensive residents in Laguna Beach, California are awaiting word on whether they'll be able to return to their homes or what's left of their homes after yesterday's devastating landslides. CNN's Sean Calebs is joining us now live from the disaster area. What's the latest, Sean?
Well, Wolf, I can tell you that right now, emergency officials here in Laguna Beach are holding a news conference. They're talking with the residents in this area who have, as you mentioned, have simply been on pins and needles for the past 26 hours or so. And what we can tell you is 300 homes were evacuated here in the hillside, more than 1,000 people. Now, in an hour and a half, 4 o'clock local time, 7 o'clock Eastern time, residents of more than 250 of the homes are going to be allowed back into their homes. However, authorities are urging them to hold off another 24 hours if they can. Now, who can't go back? Now, these are two kinds of homes. Ones that have been red tagged, others that have been yellow tagged. Yellow tagged means that they are threatened not necessarily damaged or destroyed. There are 26 of those, and there are 22 so-called red tagged homes. These are homes that have simply been destroyed, damaged, or what the authorities call imminent danger, and there's still no word on when those residents are going to be allowed back in. What about the utilities? Because we heard all the residents talk about the transformers going, gas lines rupturing. Well, power should be back on in the area. As far as gas goes, it's going to be a house by house method. It's going to happen at the earliest 4 o'clock local time tomorrow, so still about 25 and a half hours before gas gets turned back on to the areas. Water is still a major concern in this area as well. A boil order is in effect, meaning simply don't drink tap water. So a lot of the residents here have simply been on pins and needles the past day or so. We saw what happened with the landslide yesterday. What authorities are telling us, all the precipitation that punished Southern California in December, January, and February, it built up, it saturated the ground, and there's really no bedrock in this coastal area. We're only about a quarter of a mile from the ocean, so what happened? That land gave way. It may have only moved 10 feet or so, Wolf, but that's what caused the damage to all of these homes.
And a lot of those homes are multi-million-dollar homes. Sean Calebs, thanks very much for that report. We'll continue to watch that story unfold. Let's take a quick look at some other stories making headlines around the world. Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas was released from a hospital in Jordan. Doctors say Abbas had a medical procedure to check for clogged heart arteries, but was found to be in good health. China floods. Dozens of people are dead and tens of thousands more have been forced out of their homes after heavy rain caused flash floods in southern China. This is only the beginning of China's rainy season, which runs from June to August. Rescue effort. Volunteers managed to refloat dozens of whales that beached themselves on Australia's southwest coast. One whale died before it could be rescued, but many others were pushed out to sea. Monkey shine. There's an orangutan at a zoo outside Tokyo who could put most of us to shame. She washes the floor almost every day and even finds time to do some weeding. Zookeepers say she picked up the cleanliness kick watching them work. She does such a good job, they're not complaining about being aped. And that's our look around the world. It's a smart ape. Final arguments underway now in the child molestation case against Michael Jackson. We'll go there. Our senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin's been inside the courtroom. He's about to come outside. We'll get the latest from him. Plus, remember the Runaway Bride? Well, she's appeared in court today. We'll give you a word of her punishment and her apology. That's coming up. And later, the story of one elderly couple who police say built an arsenal, literally, an arsenal of weapons in their home. Our Mary Snow investigates.
Every day printer companies say they can help us print cheaper.
Why don't they show us how to print less?
Less.
Print less.
Printer companies don't help people print less.
That's an oxymoron.
Very complicated.
One company will help you print less. Lexmark. We've designed smarter ways for the world's biggest businesses to print, move, and manage information. Go to lexmark.com and see how we can help yours uncomplicate.
Fewer emissions than any engine of its kind, the GE NX jet engine is powering a fresh new way of looking at technology that even nature could approve of. Another product of pure eco-imagination from GE Transportation. GE, imagination at work.
I'm always here, working. A low profile on the high plateau, vanishing in the shadows of the buttes. Bred to be nature's neighbor, reaching miles deep for energy America needs. A natural gas well, meeting the demand in harmony with the land. With still more to explore.
Andy, you can cut the tension with a knife. Here we are. First up, the sporting group entry, a breed that originated in Europe.
Oh, now this big fella's from the working group.
Bet he's got quite an appetite.
I'll bet he does, Andy. And here's a CRV, an extremely versatile breed. You find them on farms, ranches.
And the city.
Yes, of course, the city.
And look at him responding to the crowd.
Andy, there's a good look at the Honda CRV. And now for the toy group.
Always a crowd favorite.
This is the Coopers' long-awaited getaway. There's only one problem. This isn't the Coopers. It's the Vaughns who stole their wallet.
My wallet was stolen. Honey, I need another 50s. Hello?
Presenting the American Express Traveler's Check Card. The safety of traveler's checks in a convenient card. It's prepaid. If it's stolen, your balance is replaced in 24 hours. It's your vacation. Why lose it? The Traveler's Check Card from American Express. Order yours now and get a free companion airfare.
This June, an unforgettable journey.
They will keep coming.
From executive producer Steven Spielberg and DreamWorks Television, a 6-week television event.
The ways of our people must change, or they will die.
Now, both stories will be told. Into the West, starting June 10th, only on TNT.
Closed captioning hours on CNN, sponsored in part by Barbasol. For a close shave, better by Barbasol.
Help Gary Hall Jr. beat juvenile diabetes.
Close shave, Gary.
Barbasol. Cans with my photos help kids. Better buy Barbasol.
After months of often lurid testimony, the Michael Jackson trial is finally nearing an end. Closing arguments began today. Our senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin, is over at the courthouse in Santa Maria, California. There's a break. Tell our viewers what has happened today, Jeff.
Well, Wolf, it really was a day of great high drama in the courtroom today because both sides gave their summations in this child molestation trial. And I have to say, after there's been some shaky lawyering on both sides really did an excellent job summing up. Summations will conclude tomorrow, but the heart of both summations were in court today. And Michael Jackson is just about to leave the courtroom. The day is done.
So what was the general thrust of, first of all, the summation by the prosecution?
Well, the thrust of the summation by the prosecution was believe the boy, believe the accuser. What's more, Michael Jackson has done this before. He is a pattern. He is a pedophile. And the most effective part, I thought, of the prosecution summation by the prosecutor Ron Zonin was when he went through what he described as a pattern of behavior, the previous allegations of molestation, showing how Jackson preyed on these fatherless boys and behaved in a what he described as a similar pattern, and then the accuser in this case, he said, fit with that pattern completely, and putting all that evidence together was a very effective package, I thought.
So what about the defense? How did they sum up their case?
Well, Tom Mesereau, who really has sort of dominated the courtroom during this trial, the defense attorney, I thought dominated again by talking about how this was from day one a shakedown operation from the accuser's family. And what he did was he showed how the accuser's family had done this before, he asserted. He said they had sued J.C. Penney, a fraudulent case, and both the boy and his mother lied under oath in that case. They had both lied to the authorities before about whether there had been molestation within their family, and how this case was simply another example of how they lied under oath. And during another, I thought, very effective part of the molestation, of his summation, Mesereau talked about how the timing in this case makes no sense, because one of the strange things about the prosecution's theory here is that even though Jackson and this boy were together literally for years, the only time he is accused of molesting him is after the infamous Martin Bashir documentary and after the investigation started. That's when, according to the prosecution, he started molesting the boy. That's a hard chronology to accept, and Mesereau made the most of it.
So this could go to the jury as early as tomorrow, is that right?
I think it will, late tomorrow. Both sides do not have even half their summations left, so I think almost certainly this case will go to the jury tomorrow because under the unusual procedures given by Rodney Melville, they've already had the legal instructions.
Jeffrey Toobin, our analyst out in California. Thanks, Jeff. We'll watch it together with you. Another case we were watching, the Runaway Bride. She entered a no contest plea today to charges of making a false statement. A Georgia judge ordered Jennifer Wilbanks to spend 2 years on probation and do 120 hours of community service. He also ordered her to continue psychiatric treatment. Wilbanks disappeared just days before her scheduled April wedding, prompting a costly police search. She later claimed falsely that she had been abducted and assaulted. Here's part of a call she made to the home of her fiancé, John Mason.
Are you sure you're not in Duluth?
No, I'm not in Duluth.
Are you in Georgia?
I don't know.
Okay, that's okay, sweetie. It's okay. We're just trying to figure out how to come find you. That's what we're doing. They cut your hair? And that's all they did to you? Well, that's great. She sees your dominant. It was a man and a...
She said a Hispanic and a Caucasian woman. In court, though, today, Wilbanks offered a tearful apology.
Your Honor, I'm truly sorry for my actions. And I just want to thank the Gwinnett County and the City of Duluth for all of their efforts. That's all.
Wilbanks has agreed to pay the city of Duluth, Georgia, more than $13,000 to help reimburse police for their investigation. She's also been ordered to pay the sheriff's office about $2,500. Supposedly, the wedding will still take place at some point down the road. We'll watch that. Coming up at the top of the hour, Lou Dobbs tonight. Kitty Pilgrim standing in for Lou once again tonight. She's joining us with a preview. Kitty?
Hi, well, thanks. 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be reporting on the massive foreign effort to steal our most valuable secrets. Nearly 100 countries are spying on American companies. Also, deadly Iraq. The insurgents use more sophisticated tactics. Our casualties are rising. Will our troops be in Iraq 10 years from now? And middle-class squeeze. How a rising number of cities have passed living wage laws to protect American workers. We'll have all that and a lot more at the top of the hour, but for now, back to you, Wolf.
All right, Kitty, thanks very much. When we come back, elderly arsenal, 100,000 rounds of ammunition confiscated from the home of an older couple. We'll have details.
The new Cadillac STS. Let's dance. Breakthrough.
Anderson Cooper 360. Covering the world full circle.
360 starts now.
CNN Tonight, 7 Eastern.
Mattress World has the largest selection in the Northwest.
No one has more brands or near as many comfort choices.
We deliver, have a huge inventory, no interest, no payments for 1 full year, and a 90-day comfort guarantee.
We beat any deal, anytime, even other sale prices.
We guarantee you'll get the right mattress without paying too much. We can't beat any price on any comparable mattress, and the mattress is free.
It's not too late to sleep like a baby. Mattress World.
Mattress World, 185th and Cornell, next to Burger King.
It happens. Customers come in with newspaper ads from other Ford stores with exceptionally low prices, but they don't want to put up with the heavy-handed sales tactics of an out-of-town dealer. Well, the fact is, all dealers pay exactly the same for their new cars, which means here at Newburgh Ford, we can and will compete with any dealer on price. You want a great buying experience, but you also deserve a great ownership experience. And because of the way we treat our customers, that's exactly what you'll get.
Newburgh Ford and Mercury, we just work harder for you.
Joe knows Hyundai. Joe knows selection. Joe knows value.
Like new cars starting at $29 a month with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty.
Get a new Elantra for just $29 a month. Get a new Sonata for just $49 a month. And a new Tucson for just $79 a month. Joe knows financing.
All you need is a job. Then go to youworkyouDrive.com for a guaranteed auto loan.
You work, you drive at Hillsboro Hyundai.
Comcast is
Sports and Outdoor.
Watch ESPN as the women of the LPGA bring on the excitement all season long. Catch outrageous sports talk with the best damn sports show period on Fox Sports Net. And get all your motorsports info and talk with Wind Tunnel on the Speed Channel.
Whatever you're into,
it's on Comcast.
I wish you, on your 25th anniversary, all the best of success.
New Jersey authorities are investigating a stunning discovery. CNN's Mary Snow reports.
For decades, even police in this small town knew this as the home of Doc Raymond, as they call him, and his wife, known to be very quiet. So it came as a shock to both residents and police when officers say they discovered an arsenal of weapons.
The first time we went into the house, it was amazing. The guns were stacked everywhere. The guns in the basement you could hardly move through.
Police say they found nearly 500 guns, from handguns to AK-47s, from guns in books to guns in the attic. They say over 100,000 rounds of ammunition was found, along with 800 pounds of black gunpowder. The National Guard was called in to help remove it, and police arrested 82-year-old Sherwin Raymond, but still have more questions than answers.
We believe at this point in time that he was just an obsessive gun collector. It went beyond just being an avid gun collector to an obsession.
Police are investigating how he obtained the gun, since he has a record. Authorities say in 1975 he pled guilty to having an unregistered machine gun. In the 1960s, according to investigators, Raymond served 3 years in prison for performing what was at that time illegal abortions. Raymond is now charged with creating a hazardous situation. Police say he stored hundreds of pounds of ammunition in the garage.
If there ever would have been a fire there, there would have been deaths.
I'm just shocked that someone can stockpile all this in their home.
Buzz Ilch runs a daycare center across the street. For him and other longtime residents like Detective Williams, this quiet street will never be the same.
Prior to Monday, I thought he was a nice old guy. After seeing the condition it was, no responsible person would store the ammunition, the guns, the black powder the way he did.
The Sheriff's Department says that Sherwin Raymond posted $25,000 bond, but attempts to reach him were unsuccessful. Police say that he was being treated at the hospital today for dialysis, and they say he could face more charges. They also say that he did not ask to have an attorney represent him. Wolf?
Mary Snow reporting. Thanks, Mary. When we come back, courage and controversy. Our Brian Todd looks back at the life of Colonel David Hackworth.
This week in history, Chinese troops kill and arrest pro-democracy protesters in the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. 1968, presidential candidate Senator Robert F. Kennedy is shot and fatally wounded after giving a speech in Los Angeles. Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh is convicted in 1997 on 15 counts of murder and conspiracy. And that is This Week in History.
This Week in History is brought to you by HP. HP services and technology help companies face, manage, and love change.
The HP Blade System server powered by Intel Xeon processors. Consolidation made easy.
Alert, 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 alert.
Sir, I got a level 2 case of diarrhea.
He's losing it!
Remember the Imodium? The new Imodium Liquid Gym. It works often in just one dose.
Soothing Imodium liquid transfer in progress. Calming taking effect. Normal function resumed.
Enjoy your day, Jim.
New Imodium liquid. Make peace with your body.
If you're a homeowner with a credit problem and you need cash, don't end up paying unreasonable points and fees to a broker or a middleman. Instead, deal direct and save thousands by calling or logging on to ditech.com. We'll help you to get a new low fixed rate mortgage that will pay off your current debts and lower your monthly payments or give you cash. Ditech will also guarantee you the lowest rate and fee. Credit problems are no problem at ditech.com. Log on or call 1-800-80-DITECH.
Who will call 911 when the airbags deploy?
Or tell us where we are when we're lost.
Who can tell us if to check engine light, something serious?
Or no big deal.
Who will unlock our car?
When we leave the keys in it.
Who can help the police track a carjacking with my little brother inside?
Someone should.
Someone should.
Water that's more pure. Jet engines, trains, and power plants that run dramatically cleaner. At GE, we're using what we call eco-imagination to create technology that's right in step with nature. GE, imagination at work.
The great institutions of America follow a guiding principle: build to last. That's the rule for financial and estate planning at Stanford Group Company and Stanford Trust Company. Build to last. We specialize in plans to help grow your wealth while preserving your assets. Personalized service, powerful resources. Build to last. Call us at 888-9-STANFORD or visit stanfordfinancial.com.
Colonel David Hackworth, the controversial soldier who died last month at the age of 74, was buried this week. CNN's Brian Todd reports.
A fitting final tribute. Full military honors for one of America's most decorated warriors, described by a fellow soldier as the quintessential combat commander.
He was a bona fide war hero.
Colonel David Hackworth, a born adventurer who lied about his age to enlist in the Army in his mid-teens, patrolled still unsettled borders in post-World War II Europe, and in Korea, won a battlefield commission while barely in his 20s, earning his first serious commendations. But it was in Vietnam where his prowess became legend. General John Howard served under Hackworth in the deadly Central Highlands.
He was utterly fearless, and as a result, many of the junior officers and non-commissioned officers did everything they could to emulate him.
By the end of his final tour in Vietnam, Hackworth had accumulated 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, 10 Silver Stars, 8 Bronze Stars, 8 Purple Hearts, a reputation for thinking like the enemy, consistently beating him, and pushing the bounds of military convention.
I ran for my soldiers a house of ill repute because my doctor told me that was the best way to control BD.
But that maverick disposition would also lead to disillusionment. In a 1971 network interview, Hackworth said Vietnam could not be won and the U.S. should get out. Incensed at such comments from a serving officer, the Pentagon forced him to retire. Hackworth gave up his medals in protest and went into self-imposed exile in Australia. He eventually got the medals back, but later, as a journalist, became an unyielding critic of military leadership, sparing nothing in an interview with CNN as the first Gulf War was underway.
It's really a bitch to cover because the military here has so restricted the press. It's not like Korea or Vietnam. The press is really restricted to staying around international hotels and sucking on each other like a lot of vultures. It's hard to get the truth.
Even as he was losing his final battle with cancer, Hackworth and the Pentagon never completely reconciled. In a CNN interview last year, he questioned accountability in the Abu Ghraib scandal.
You know, you can only have one captain of a ship. You can't have 2. And if you and I were running that prison, I said, look, buddy, Anderson, are you running or I'm running?
To the end, an emotional divide in the military community between those who view Hackworth as a self-promoter and unshakable allies like his widow.
He glowed with honesty.
and with love for his troops. I mean, all he cared about was making sure that American troopers, the kids out at the tip of the spear, received the right training, leadership, and equipment.
David Hackworth's farewell fitting for another reason. Hundreds of mourners at his graveside, not one member of the top brass among them. Brian Todd, CNN, Arlington, Virginia.
And Lou Dobbs tonight starts right now. Kitty Pilgrim standing by in New York. Kitty?